Right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon session. Hope you had a really good Easter, despite all the weather that we're going through. Just at the moment, feels more like January than it does April at this stage. Anyway, you're all very welcome to this afternoon's webinar, which is titled Unlocking the Omnichannel Mystery in Retail. So we're going to be talking a lot about obviously omnichannel retailing. I know loads of you are doing it, some of you are trying to do it, but how do you get it right? That's some of the questions we're going to start to try and unlock during the course of this afternoon session. We've got a number of speakers. In a moment, I'm just going to introduce you to Gina from AIB Merchant Services. So Gina is the National E-commerce Sales Manager for Ireland, and she's going to be talking for around 10 minutes or so just to begin the session. Next up, I'm going to move to Fergal O'Neill, CEO of Gamma, who's one of our partners, and he's going to be looking at this definition of convenience, how things in the world of retail have changed, how retailers can bring their products closer to the new customer through an omni-channel approach. So Fergal's going to be putting a few slides up and talking through for about 20 minutes or so. And then to finish things off, we've got two of our members, Maeve, the owner of Love Cherish down there in Cork, and Carl, the MD of Coffee Angel. And I'm going to have a bit of a conversation with them towards the back end of this and just really see how those two guys have done things. And I might bring in Fergal and Gina as well, just to wrap things up. So hopefully we'll have lots of good interaction during the course of today. And as always, if you've got any questions, guys, please drop them into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. And hopefully we'll get some time. Hope we may not get time to ask all the questions, but hopefully we'll get time to ask the majority of questions and put our panelists on the spot a bit and give you the benefits of their experience. So without further ado, let me hand over to Gina. Gina, you are very welcome, and I know you've got some slides just to pull up.
Thank you, Duncan. Appreciate the warm intro there. I'll just get things started by bringing up things on my presentation on the screen. But myself and my colleagues are delighted from AIBMS to be extended an invite to be part of the discussion today. I am just going to make sure I get this up properly. Just give me one moment. We're also used to remote learnings and remote sharing, so technical aspect is one part of it also. Fantastic, it's working. Thank you again to Duncan, and again we want to extend a huge thanks to our partners at the Retail Excellence Ireland Group for hosting such a hot topic today. We're delighted to take part in the discussion, and I suppose we're really looking forward also to hearing how the other speakers have pivoted successfully to an online offering and their learnings moving forward, managing both in-store and online channels. And a very warm welcome to everybody tuning in remotely as well. It's good to have you on board. So just to get things started, my name is Gina Archbold, as Duncan has introduced. I'm working within the payments industry for the last 14 years, and I'm delighted to have joined the AIBMS group in January of this year as their National E-commerce Sales Manager. I'm looking forward to taking you through some of what we have to offer customers from an AIB perspective in terms of the digital payment options, and shedding some light on how we unlock the mystery of omni-channel in a retail environment. So as you can see on the screen here, we have decided to display our 4 cohorts of our digital payment options available to our customers. From an e-commerce perspective, we took a look back on 2020 to see how we had done things and see what our customer behavior was like during that time. And 43% of stores opened in 2020 were traditional customer present type customers, looking to use new ways of trading, and almost none of these trading online were using a traditional basket. Another hot topic that we've been familiar with is the rollout of 3D Secure, which was part of the PSD2 directive, which was introduced in 2018. We will start to see that coming into full effect as we go into H2 of this year in Ireland, and in the UK we will see that come into effect in October. And what that will enable us to do is make sure that all those payments that are being processed online by our merchants are more secure for both the merchant and the customer. Another part of our offering in terms of our e-commerce piece is that we offer a hosted payments page, either to an API plugin or to a bespoke built website, also allowing for customization on logo, branding, colors. So you're keeping that consistency with your customers who are shopping online with you, and there's no variation of that when they go to checkout during that process. Dynamic currency conversion is also a fundamental part of our customers trading outside of the domestic market, which more customers will start to look to do once, I suppose, they've gotten used to being able to use and familiarize and benefit from the digital payment environment. What dynamic currency conversion affords our merchants to do is to trade in other jurisdictions, in other currencies, and to identify where those jurisdictions are through online reporting. So from a digital marketing strategy perspective, it's really important to identify where those cohort of customers are and build digital strategies around targeting those customers, either through PPC initiatives or through social media initiatives, where they're going to target them through a campaign. And a key benefit, I suppose, of DCC as well is that it essentially allows the customer in that particular jurisdiction to choose to pay in their own currency, which again affords our merchant the benefit of a percentage of a rebate back against that transaction, which creates an additional revenue stream for a business, or indeed it allows them to offset the benefit of that rebate against their charges for the merchant services. Virtual terminal is a really popular product and solution that we've been able to demonstrate to our customers in the last 12 months. It's providing a remote payment option for customers, where in the last 12 months, probably 56% of our new e-commerce customers were for businesses pivoting to COVID customer behavior. And they opted for this remote payment tool for distance selling. And essentially what it did was it turned your laptop, your PC, your tablet into a card acceptance device, which meant that, I suppose, for businesses who were working remotely, it meant that they were able to provide payment options out to their staff to accept those payments, while their place of business was not something that they could access at the time. Another key feature is reoccurring payment options. So a lot of retailers are focused on repeat customers, and some companies are looking at subscription model options as well, where it creates an additional revenue stream and a sustainable revenue stream where footfall just isn't walking through the door due to COVID. And we've looked at the reoccurring payment option as a key feature for retailer. And from a customer experience perspective, it means that the customer doesn't have to keep presenting their card payment each time that they want to purchase from you. So it reduces down that kind of friction and allows for that transaction to go smoothly. We also have Pay by Link as a secure remote payment option, and proven really, really popular across retail and professional services currently. And again, improving the customer experience where you're not able to take those transactions in a face-to-face environment, and making sure that the transaction is secure, payment is received, merchant can see it on a live dashboard, and they feel confident and secure with sending their goods out for delivery to their customer. The other key benefit of this is that it's PCI compliant. So it means that when you send this URL link to your customer, either via Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, or email, it means that you are not handling the customer card information. So that information will be handled and keyed in by your customer who's actually purchasing from you, and there will be a seamless checkout with your full company branding on it, so there's no inconsistencies with the message, and giving the customer trust and comfort in who they're purchasing from, and making that seamless. And last but not least, our technical integrations, our technical partners are extremely important to us. From our own perspective, our business offers an omni-channel functionality, and where we find enhancements through these third-party integrations, which allow us additional routes to market or to enhance the ask from the customer's perspective. We've highlighted a couple of areas like shopping carts. So we work with nearly all the major shopping carts. There's new ones coming to market, so it's very much a live stream of technical partners and shopping carts available. But we do work with most of the popular ones. We work with third party, I beg your pardon, API plugins also, which enhance customers' offering, which affords the omni-channel integration feature for a lot of our customers that are looking for those options in the market. Just to shed some light on who those technical partners are, from a click and collect perspective, you know, we look at using partners such as Loyal App and Prompt to support customers who are wanting to have that facility in place. And we understand that there's government restrictions right now in terms of allowing that functionality, and probably capacity will play a big part in that as we reopen after May 4th. Fingers crossed. We're all hoping for that timeline ourselves. And you'll also see here we work with Magento, WooCommerce, OpenCart, some what will be familiar to you from a retail perspective. And it would be unfair not to mention our own native POS solution, Clover, which again has connectivity with our gateway AuthPay and provides omni-channel functionality to our customers. And we have core retail proposition API plugins using third-party partner who we've listed here as Optimize, and again allowing that end-to-end piece for business owners to see retrospectively how online and offline channels are performing. And we've listed here Shopify as well. We work with Shopify customers, but in a particular way. We have done a technical bridge and integration with a company called Wally. And what that allows us to do is to work with Shopify customers who wish to work on another platform, but keep their e-shop that they've built, and keep all components of it. And using a Wally integration with AuthPay, our gateway, we're able to work with Shopify customers and provide them with a gateway and card acquiring facilities through that connectivity with Wally. Really important, I suppose, from our perspective, these technical partners, as I said, afford us the ability to provide order ahead, click and collect, and loyalty being a big feature as well. Top up online and in store, vice versa, and your points can be seen at any particular touch point that a business has because of that omni-channel functionality. So I hope that shed a little bit of light in terms of how AIBMS unlocks omni-channel for retail, and I look forward to hearing from the other speakers today. And back over to you, Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gina. That's great. Some really good stuff there. And we might come back to you at the end there, Gina, but Gina is e-commerce, was it National E-commerce Director for AIB Merchant Services. So thank you very much and welcome to your new role. Sounds like you're relatively fresh in at this stage. So, and I'm hearing lovely comments being made there about click and collect. If only, Gina, it would be lovely, wouldn't it? Anyway, I'm going to move on. So Fergal, can I move over to you, please? Fergal from Gamma.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
Yep, you can see it. Yep, okay, perfect.
Okay, I'm going to talk about convenience, measuring convenience and optimizing convenience in this whole omni-channel world through the dark arts which I engage in, my colleagues engage in, called location intelligence. And as retailers, you're probably blue in the face of hearing how you need to be more convenient, how the consumer demands you to be more convenient, and how online is more convenient than physical retail. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can measure that, how it's important, and what benefits you can get from having a greater understanding of the convenience of your brand. So I don't think any of us would disagree that convenience is absolutely critical in retail and becoming much more so as time goes on. But what I wanted to do was to look at how critical it is, and has there been any surveys or research done into measuring this? And there's actually been lots, but the one I selected was a very recent one carried out by the retail excellence equivalent really in the US, the National Retail Federation. And they did research in December 2020 to look at the importance of convenience in retail from a consumer point of view. And there's some interesting headlines in this. First of all, over 9 in 10 consumers would choose a retailer more based on convenience. A third significantly would. 52% say that more than half of their purchases are influenced by convenience. And this next one was quite interesting to me in that the convenience aspect and in terms of where it's important carries beyond and across all the categories or all the main categories in terms of we would expect it certainly in groceries where 63% said that they could consider convenience very important, but it carries across the other categories into clothing, electronics, personal care and pet supplies. And even more interesting is that over half in every category of consumers surveyed are saying that they're willing to pay more for this. We've always known this. People pay more in convenience stores than they do for that proximity and that ease of transaction. They pay more online for delivery. So we know this, but it's interesting to have it measured. And also interesting is that over the last 5 years, this importance and significance of remaining convenient has grown. So 83% of respondents say that they will consider convenience more now shopping than compared with 5 years ago. And I think that will increase further as the new generation weaned on online shopping get to the age of being consumers. In Ireland, we've also tracked this for quite a long time. Even if we go back to 2015, the Where We Shop survey, which looked particularly at grocery, we can identify that with the exception of the discounters where price was the main criteria where affecting consumers shopping more in their stores, in Aldi and Lidl, for all the others, that number one criteria and the number 1, 2, and 3 in most cases were related to convenience. I shop more in Tesco because it's a convenient location to me. I shop more in Dunn's because it's convenient, because it's better parking. So this has long been known. So with that being the case, I presume that we all measure KPI and track convenience in the same way as we might track average customer value, conversion rates, footfall, market share, or any of the plethora of online metrics that we view religiously. And the case is probably not. We don't measure convenience or track it anywhere near some of these others, which is surprising considering how important it is. So why is this the case? Well, I suppose historically, when stores were more static, when our store locations were more static, there wasn't a huge amount of change in networks. So perhaps we didn't feel we needed to or could. Even if we could, lease in flexibility meant that we couldn't really chop and change our networks, our physical store networks too readily. So I suppose, again, it wasn't seen as much of a point in tracking it. But I suppose probably the key one in it is that I suppose convenience is seen as an intangible concept, something that you can't grasp. How can you measure something like convenience for your brand? It might have been something that just was viewed as couldn't be measured. And more in the remit of the chap that you might see sitting there, a geographer, which I'd put myself in the same group, outside of the whole retail sphere, and something that could be ignored. But I suppose what I'm here to say is that it can be measured, it can be tracked, and it can be monitored. So before we get into how we can do that, let's first determine what we're talking about when we're talking about convenience. So there's three main elements to convenience that we use in tracking it: distance, time, and ease of transacting. So it's all about removing impedances for the consumer in transacting. Distance is an obvious one. How far is the consumer from stores, click and collect points, from parking? Time, how long does it take to get there? How long to deliver online? How long to get through checkout? How long to order online? And ease of transacting. Can I get through the website easily? Can I find my way around the store easily? So convenience ultimately then is a combination of geographical and operational issues. A lot of the points are geographical, i.e. where can I locate my stores and optimize them so that I'm most convenient to the consumer? Where is the best place to put parking? Where's the best place to put fulfillment locations? And I'm going to focus very much on the geographical ones for the next part of this presentation. So what can we measure in terms of convenience? Well, we can certainly measure our own store locations. We know where they are, and we can plot them out and analyze them. We can also measure our target neighborhoods. We know where they are. We can profile them. We know the amount of spend there. We know the type of people living there. In fact, nowadays with anonymized transaction data that's now commercially available, we can even estimate an idea of the market share that our competitors have in those locations. So there's lots we can tell about the target neighborhoods. Knowing both of those things, then we can measure the travel time from one to the other. So we know how far our stores are from every neighborhood in the country, and the amount of spend that's available and can flow from those neighborhoods to our stores. If we want to get really detailed, we can also then measure the next impedance, which is at the store. So when the consumer gets to the store, how long will it take them to get from parking into the store? We can measure that again for every one of our stores. And finally, we can measure what happens when we're in the store. So we can measure, is our store one like on the left-hand side where we're waiting in line for a long time? Or is it more like the Amazon Go model where we're in and out in a second? So all these things together can be computed, calculated, and added together to give us a value and a score for every part of the country to determine how convenient you are. So in this case, for example, we did a convenience estimate for the super value store locations. What we can basically do is identify every neighborhood to see how convenient it is in terms of getting and accessing that brand. We can also do it for all the other brands because we know that information about them as well. And when we put them all together, we can basically create a convenience model that shows for every neighborhood which brand is most convenient, second most convenient, third most convenient, and so on. We did this a number of years ago within the grocery sector, and we identified that Super Value was Ireland's most convenient supermarket based on this. Interestingly enough, in this analysis that we did, they didn't have the largest number of stores, but they did have the locations that were most strategic, and thus ended up being the most convenient in terms of the consumer. So if we do this analysis, and if we create a convenience model, what can it tell about my mindset? So once we've done this at neighborhood level for whatever sector and your competitors, we can then pass that information down to household level. We can pass it down to individuals, to your CRM, to your customers, to your prospects, to individual addresses that are located within each neighborhood. We can then identify that, for example, where I live in my house, that I'm 10 minutes from a Woodies, but 20 minutes from a B&Q. So B&Q need to try harder with me to win my business. And if a Dunn's opens in Fairview, it'll be my closest store. Probably take my business from Aldi. That's currently twice the distance away. So Dunn's will know that it's catering for an existing Aldi customers mainly. And Nissan might know that if they close my local dealer, the next nearest might be on the Naas Road. So that's where they want to get me to get a service. So they might get the Nace Road dealer to contact me in that scenario. So if you model and understand and measure brand convenience and that of your competitors, there's a whole range of insights and questions you can answer from an omnichannel point of view. I've just highlighted 3 here that I'll talk to, because I know I have a limit in terms of time. One question that you can answer with this approach is, where is the convenience battle marginal? Retailers spend fortunes in trying to convince consumers to go to their store by vouchering, by incentives, things like that. A lot of that is wasted in a situation where the consumer is not convenient to the particular brand. I'll give you an example. If I'm sent a voucher to go to a grocery store that is half an hour away from me, I might get a €50 voucher. I'll go there, even though there's another grocery store 10 minutes away. I'll keep going there while I'm getting my vouchers, but after they run out, I'll ultimately revert back to what's most convenient. So really the retailer that's half an hour away is wasting its money with me. If they can identify those neighborhoods where that battle, where that convenience decision, it's 10 minutes to one, it's 12 minutes to the other, where that battle is marginal, that money is much more wisely spent, and I will probably become a lifetime customer by habit. So identifying that can save the retailer focus in terms of marketing. It can identify where really the convenience is a close called thing, and where they can focus their marketing spend more efficiently. Secondly, how can a retail chain increase its brand convenience? By partnering, acquiring. So there's a lot of concessions, for example, happening now as retailers realize they want to get better efficiencies out of their floor space. So by identifying which partners provide locations where you haven't got locations will certainly improve your reach and improve your convenience by doing that. Are potentially identifying acquisitions that fill in the gaps that you're not covering. For example, the pillar banks have recently are recently partnering with Post, for example, to cover locations that they're closing. So identifying where networks are in relation to your own can offer that insight and show you where your convenience reach can be increased. Probably the most important insight you'll get from doing this type of analysis is a better insight into the impacts of opening and closing stores. And let's face it, a lot of retailers are going to be opening and closing stores in the coming years. Closing maybe some of the more traditional ones, opening perhaps more some of the pure play online retailers that are looking for physical store presence. And let's just focus a little bit on that impacts and how understanding convenience can help you make better decisions about right-sizing retail networks. Some retailers, without doing this, are closing stores based on historical transactions and revenue only. So they might identify, for example, that here are my locations that are in the bottom X percent, we'd say the bottom 10% over the last couple of years. So we're going to flag them for closure as a result of right sizing. What that fails to identify and to see and to include is this whole store network challenge, which really should be an omni-channel view. The store network challenge really is about changing the network to meet the demands for all the channels. Changing means right sizing, reformatting, relocating some stores, not only stores, interaction points, click and collect points to meet demands. Demands really mean convenience demands, and for all the channels, for collection, for home delivery, for ship from store. Where is the combination of stores and collection points that meets that optimization challenge? So basing that purely on historic transactions ignores three key points. First of all, the convenience impacts. Closing a store in the example we have here in our bottom 10%, may fail to see that particular store closure will result in all existing customers going to a competitor. In another store, maybe slightly further up my list, a closure will result in 70% going to my other existing stores because of where it's located. So understanding where your customers will go in terms of a closure or a right sizing exercise is very important and can make the difference in terms of the overall real impact of the decision that you're making. Secondly, fulfillment costs. Perhaps closing a store in an area, the last store will increase your fulfillment costs to the customers in that region. If everyone has to be delivered to online, you're losing your last potential delivery point, perhaps a ship from store hub. And also this whole area of omnichannel brand presence, online uplift, or as they call the halo effect. The halo effect basically says that e-commerce sales, online sales, are much more likely to be made within close proximity of a physical store. This research done in the US by Pitney Bowes showed that within 20 miles of a store for a particular network, 96% of total sales were made, but also 87% of online sales were made. So there's a close correlation and close linkage between having a physical store presence and selling through the other channels, because you're providing that whole showrooming capacity, you're providing brand presence in an area. That all has to be factored in when making decisions about your optimum retail size, your optimum network size. I suppose even more significant is the average spend per capita within locations close to stores online. This survey showed that if you were within a trading area of a physical store, the average e-commerce sales per capita was double. If you're within the trading area of 2 stores, it was treble. So if 2 of your stores overlapped and the customer resided in that location, they were spending 3 times more on average than somebody who didn't reside within a trading area of one of your stores. So the whole interaction between physical stores and online sales is very important. Recently, I believe John Lewis in the UK identified that it was £6 out of every 10 spent was derived from a physical store interaction, and that was online spend. I think they're revising that recently, but it's quite significant. I haven't mentioned COVID at all so far. Trying to be a bit cheery, but really because all of the points I've made were relevant before COVID. But COVID has obviously impacted them. There's obviously been a lot more online take-up over the year. There's an even greater expectation of convenience. It's accelerated the right sizing process. Right sizing of physical store networks was always coming. It was there before the pandemic. It's sped up as a result of the pandemic. We're also seeing online pure play retailers looking for physical stores to make them more convenient in the physical channel, and perhaps buoyed by success during the lockdown. There's been a huge focus on local convenience services. So we're seeing a much greater focus within neighborhoods on shopping locally, shopping convenience. So again, this whole concept of convenience has been pushed through even further. There's also been changes on the demand side. So people are working from home. So the whole map of where demand is coming from has been altered and has to be revised. So how long that will persist will vary based on area. We're actually releasing some research on that shortly, showing that some neighborhoods, by the mix of professions that they have resident in them, that daytime population boost that they've gotten from working from home will persist probably. And thus they will become markets that weren't viable prior to COVID, because they will now seek services convenient to them. So I'd suggest 4 things really if you're interested in analyzing and using the whole concept of measuring your brand convenience. Firstly, to define convenience goals for every channel in your organization. So, for example, do you want to have 70% of your target market within 15 minutes drive time of the store? Do you want to have 95% within an hour? Set those goals and track them. I'd certainly recommend modeling your convenience, identifying what an optimal network looks like, so that if sites do become available in the future, that you can avail of that and understand what benefits they'll bring when time is at a premium. Thirdly, as I've done already, get into the mindset of your customers in different areas and understand their convenience view of your brand. Where do customers in Waterford view your stores? Where do customers in Dalkey and Dublin view the convenience of your brand? And I suppose fourthly, this is an ongoing long-term process where you have to monitor what's happening, monitor your competitors' reactions, your competitor actions, openings, closures, and see how it affects the convenience of your brand and what you can do to affect that. Because it's a long-term journey to optimize your convenience, but well worth doing. So in closing, I'd say, I think there's no doubt convenience is extremely important to success in retailing. We don't really measure it anywhere near to the degree we measure other things, even though it's regularly identified as being the most critical factor in success. We should, we can, and many of the best guys will. So that's basically it. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Fergal. Fergal, can I ask, before we go on, can I just ask you one question? I know this has been coming up quite a bit recently. In terms of click and collect, I mean, are you talking there around the convenience and the locations and the importance of being of convenience? But in terms of click and collect, how much of click and collect is done on a local basis versus, because this view about movement of people around the country to go and pick something up from a local shop, it happens locally though, doesn't it? Isn't it that where most of click and collect goes on?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the convenience of click and collect, the whole point of it is that it has to be locally, and it has to be, it has to be a convenient option for the consumer. Yeah, because I know this is going to become a bigger issue as this debate around the opening of click and collect goes on over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and it seems like it's a bit of a no-brainer to be pushing the government around. This impacts smaller local retailers more than it does perhaps some of the bigger players. Sure. Super. Okay, guys, I'm going to just introduce our other 2 panelists, Maeve and Carl. Maybe you just stick your cameras on there, guys, can you? Yeah. Thanks, Maeve. Super, brilliant. Maeve, I'm going to come to you first, right? Because I have just been looking at your website, right? And you've just pleased me because the first thing I'm looking at, and I'm sure it is aimed at me, is it says something on it like higher beautiful or something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's very, so was that just aimed at me or was that aimed at all your customers?
Well, I'd like you to believe it's aimed at you.
Right.
But it is something, if you walked into my store when my store is open, the first thing you'll see is a sign that says hello beautiful.
Great.
And that's why it's on the website, so that people have the same effect, to keep it as seamless as possible. Our brand is very friendly, accessible, helpful. It's very informal. And you'll see that on our social media, on our website, and you see it in our store as well, So I think a lot of people would say to me, are you mad to even reopen the store when your online is going so well? But my genuine belief is that the online is going so well because people trust us, because they know us from the store and we've built it up over the years,
Superb. Yeah. Now I think we need our faces back up there now, don't we? So let's do that. Guys, can you take that screen down and let's have it? Yeah, that's much better. I can actually see I'm talking to now. So Maeve, just talk to me a little bit about your business model and how that might have changed. So we've been talking here Fergal's been talking about convenience and omnichannel but in terms of what you had, let's say 2 years ago, to what you've got now, and where you're taking your money and what's important to you, what would it be?
Like, I suppose we opened 8 years ago. We went online in 2018, and we were steadily growing the online all the time anyway. But obviously COVID hit and it was completely online, we just immediately kind of focused on what our customers would want. And as ridiculous as it sounds, when we weren't allowed into the store, I did try-ons at home and show the clothes. We would be very much known for that you see them on a real person and you get an idea of what you might be buying. So it's a little bit easier for somebody to get a feel for what the clothes might look like. And we started doing that and it just catapulted from there. We got a massive reaction. All of our customers wanted to support us. And then since then, we've been building on the website and looking at ways to make it easier for people. Like our gift cards, our e-vouchers have gone through the roof, the sales on them. So we personalize them. So you can make a card online that'll go directly to who you want to send it to, and it'll have a personal note in it. And, little things like that. At Christmas, we did gift boxes that just, we sold a ridiculous amount of them again, because it's just trying to help people with things they can't do at the moment, like buying people's gifts or whatever it might be. We've just looked at working on the website and our social media, but keeping it as we were in the shop, keeping it very informal, very helpful. We're very interactive. Like, we never not reply to a message, a comment, whatever it might be. We look at our standards, like our delivery times are 24 hours. We've been working on all of that. Just trying to make it as easy as possible. And we're doing a loyalty scheme whereby those customers, when they come in store, when we do reopen, will be able to benefit from it in store or online, so they can buy from both, So it's kind of been a step on from what we have, but like, we definitely have a community of customers that trust us and buy regularly from us and recommend us. And like, we don't do paid advertising. We've never done paid advertising online or anything. We just have, as Fergal said, the convenience side of it, have tried to build on that and make it as easy as possible for people to come back to us and to recommend us.
Super. So just in terms of how in terms of how you're trading at the moment, you've got the doors shut, but in terms of, if you compare the business that you're doing now to the business you're doing in 2019, let's say, where would you be? What is it, 10%?
Year on year, last year, 2019, we would have been up over 80% with the store closed. And that's including store sales. And this year, so far, we're up over 100% on last year.
Wow.
So we moved to a warehouse. We moved to a small warehouse last year, which was a mistake. And we all make them. And then I realized, like, the volume of orders, it wasn't feasible. So we've moved to a large warehouse unit now in Charleville as well. And
so is this customers, new customers that are coming from across the country to you, or?
Yeah, it is. Like, it's like we'd ship all over the country and we'd ship abroad as well. Like, and it would be a combination of both, local people and, like, some of my best customers are up in the Midlands. If you look at my top 10, so it's just people that literally that have, they trust us. They watch us on social media. They know that we'll get back to them. They know they know my team are introduced in social media. Like, there's 12 of us now working in the warehouse. Well, not right now, obviously, but there's a team of 12 of us now looking after all the orders. So yeah, it's just customers from all over the country and abroad.
Superb. Carl, can I come to you? Because I'm very conscious. I know we were talking beforehand, but I think the first time I came across Coffee Angel, you had almost a little tuk-tuk going around the city, didn't you? I used to appear like this guerrilla marketing man that appeared at street corners and was from his tuk-tuk. I remember that. That was years ago now. I'm probably dating us both. But how did life start? Because you've got quite an interesting story there.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me on to speak. Yeah, I've been, I suppose, in the kind of hospitality coffee business pretty much all my life. I returned to Ireland from Canada, having been born in Belfast in the mid-90s. And I opened up, unbeknownst to me, what I guess was Ireland's first kind of specialty coffee shop. There wasn't any great business acumen involved, but I think I got lucky. I worked incredibly hard, but Friends had just come on TV, and it was an overnight success. And I worked at that for a couple of years, built it up, and at kind of 1998, 1999, I decided, my now wife, we decided to leave Belfast and move to Dublin. So I sold the little coffee shop for significantly more than I'd invested, and opened a restaurant in Dublin in 2000, which was critically acclaimed and financially disastrous. I learned a lot, but I kind of went from hero to zero within a couple of years. And whilst that hurt a lot financially and psychologically, I still was confident enough to get back in the saddle. So I kind of went back to my original plan, which was coffee, and being broke, I suppose. I cobbled together enough money from a very generous relative to buy a little 3-wheel Piaggio van and convince the Department of the Marine at the time to let me set up at the end of the pier in Howth. And whilst my restaurant had a 50-page business plan, my little Piaggio van, I kind of made it a little bit more succinct. And my whole strategy was follow the prams. Wherever you find prams, you find exhausted parents. So I set up at the end of the pier in Howth in 2004, and built it from there. So yeah, we now have 5 shops in Dublin city centre, but that happened about 8 years after the first little van on the pier, and then in the IFSC and in Dunleary. So yeah, I've learned a lot, but a lot of it for me is about keeping it simple.
So you're in the coffee business then, and you've got 5 stores in and around Dublin city centre.
Right.
At a time when, in the last year, we've seen remote working and people exiting the city centres for working like there's no tomorrow, and the footfall like going through the floor in Dublin city centre. So how have you survived, and how have you pivoted and introduced an omni-channel business in the coffee industry?
Yeah, well, we've always had a website, firstly for customer awareness. We introduced many years ago an e-commerce aspect to it, but it was always a very, 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 very insignificant part of our revenue stream. I think when just before COVID hit last year, online accounted for about 1.4% of our online turnover. So it was really just, I looked at it as kind of a branding or a marketing exercise more than anything else. COVID hit, and essentially our turnover went to zero, with all of our shops being closed and relying so much on office workers. They were obviously had been sent home. So again, it was a bit of an accident and maybe a bit of luck, but I put a tweet out after sitting at home for one day and offered any of our customers, if they wanted a bag of coffee, I would drive it to their house. And I put that tweet out in the evening, and I woke up the next morning to 200 orders. So all of a sudden, kind of the light bulb went off that, well, this is, maybe there's some mileage in trying to pivot towards online, which wasn't a natural fit for a hospitality person, but it's gone great. It hasn't replaced, the bricks and mortar revenue, but it's got increasingly better, and it's helped us survive the last 12 months.
And how do you see the model padding out? So at some point we're going to get retail back up and running, and hopefully we'll get a bit more footfall back into the towns and the streets you operate in. How do you see the model progressing a year down the line, let's say?
Well, for us, I think if you talk to 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different opinions on what's going to happen when we're all vaccinated. In my own mind, the best case scenario for me is kind of returning to 75% of where we were. That's the best case scenario. I'm a real apple and oranges kind of strategist. I think one customer working from home 1 day a week is a 20% drop in my revenue. So I think a lot of people will avail of the flexibility if it's offered to them, whether it's 1 day a week or more. So I think online is going to play a significant role. We've got 3 of our 5 shops open, and they're doing a fraction of what they were but online has stepped in, and it's almost become another shop. So I treat it with the same energy and enthusiasm. I understand that it needs maintaining. I understand that it needs constant investment, and you know, you need to keep updating it and work on it and communicate with your customers. So, you know, I think online for me is going to remain a significant part of our business going forward.
Fantastic. And just before I move back to Maeve, I know that you've got some sort of click and collect type service in operation, haven't you? How does that work in the coffee industry? Does product not sit there getting cold while it's waiting for somebody?
Sorry, well, that's interesting, because it's not quite. I mean, it is something we could do. I've never been a fan of it, but yeah, certainly online there's you know, our point of sale system is enabled for customers to order and collect coffee if they wanted. We haven't gone there yet, but certainly if somebody goes to our e-commerce site, coffeeangel.com, and orders a bag of coffee or a coffee grinder or, you know, a gift box, they can collect it pretty much within 24 hours from one of our locations or less. So that's kind of how the click and collect works for us. We haven't quite been brave enough to try the, you know, collecting a coffee from the shop.
Right.
But that's certainly one of those things that we have to consider going forward. Again, consumers' behavior and mindsets may change where they want even to be in and out even faster. So, you know, everything for me at the moment in regards to online is on the table. You know, I can't say no to anything.
And in terms of the percentage mix between hot beverages, let's call them, and the other items like bags of coffee and coffee grinders and things, what's the sort of percentage? Is it still very much the hot beverage, or is it shifting?
Well, I mean, our online at the moment is worth 25% of our reduced revenue. But I mean, all of that, I'd say 80% of that is coffee beans, ground coffee. You know, I think, you know, much like Maeve said, people, you know, we have a lot of loyal customers, and the support is there if you can provide the product and the service, and people will continue to come back. So I think people, you know, whenever they visited our shops, you know, you know, maybe at the start it might have been about, you know, supporting the local business guy, but it's kind of evolved into, we've obviously provided a product and a service that people are happy to support and come back and continue to support. So there's a lot of baristas out there now working from home. Yeah, a lot more than there was 12 months ago.
Super. And Maeve, I just want to come back to you in terms of this click and collect thing, because I know, again, we were talking earlier on about, you know, what that's, the lack of click and collect at the moment and the impact that's having. But from your side, I mean, what impact has it had? And when you had it, what was it doing versus now?
It was just busy. It was busy all the time with people coming in. There was never a problem because we have a security door where you have to buzz in. It was just busy all the time. Locals coming, going. They could return as well, which is a huge part of online shopping, the convenience of returning. I'm sure Fergal would agree with that. Like, it needs to be easy for somebody to return something. And at present, I am telling Mary next door that she has to go to the post office and queue up for half an hour to post it back to me. You know, it's frustrating. I understand that we have to wait, but it is frustrating, and it does impact sales. There's no point in saying it doesn't. People want to support local. They absolutely do, but that's a massive incentive to do so, you know?
Yeah, so you can't wait. You can't wait for click and collect to be real.
No, and even just to have that interaction, I do miss that. Like, I do love interacting with customers and meeting them in person and to have that back, you know? So, and it's just difficult when you're like a local business as well. You know, I live in this area. I know nearly everybody in this area, and not allowing them to come here or not allowing them to drop stuff back, it's a difficult thing to keep that relationship at the same time. You know, I'm sure a lot of people are like this, you know, and you never want anybody local to feel that your online has gotten so big. You know, they're like, she's in a new warehouse there, that you've forgotten about them, because we haven't at all. You know, they're a massive part of our business.
Yeah, super.
But the sooner the better.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And just, I'll go to have the same question to both of you, actually, but I'll go to you, Maeve, first, Maeve. You know, so you'll have learned new skills over the last 12 months in terms of a new omni-channel opportunities, like, you know, Instagram perhaps, or I don't know, developing your website in a different way. What's been the most, is there anything that surprised you? Is there anything that you've thought, why didn't I do that before? This was, you know, a no-brainer for me.
Anything that I didn't do before? Why didn't I do a website a long time ago? Because I did it in 2018. But I suppose I wish I had put more time and energy into it, you know, instead of doing the time and energy into the thing that I enjoy, which is the shop. Now that I've put the time and energy, and I've had the time to focus on this because the shop has been closed, like that is one benefit of this. And I've employed people that are good at things that I'm not good at. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot more structure in the company now as such, in that there's people in roles doing things that I would have done everything before because I wanted to. And now that the online has grown, I can't. And now that there's people doing those roles and doing them a lot better than I did, everything is working a lot more seamlessly. We also changed career and it has been life-changing.
Yeah.
I'm a very much, oh, but they're lovely guys, you know, it's grand, we'll sort it. And actually, no, if you want to progress, you need to be able to give a good service to your customers, and you need to be able to stand over it, you know. At the end of the day, they're buying from us, not from a courier, you know.
Yeah, superb. Thank you. And same question to you, Carl, in terms of, you know, is there anything that over the last few months that surprised you and you thought I should have been doing this years ago, or is it natural progression?
Well, I think again, speaking from a hospitality perspective, it's not quite realizing the value that online can bring. Much like Maeve, we took the approach, you know, people like me can't compete with the Amazons of the world. So we looked at what made us successful over the years, you know, in terms of people coming in, you know, it was that human connection, it was the efficiency or the quality. And we realized that firstly, Irish people do want to support local. But secondly, that human connection was really important for us. So, you know, I wish I'd focused on in developing that a lot sooner. So, I mean, you know, as an example, we started writing a thank you note. It's not innovative or anything with every order that went out at the start. And it was me writing thank you notes. And, you know, if Duncan ordered from me, I would, because it was me doing pretty much everything when COVID hit, I might see an order coming in again from Duncan and I'd say, oh, Duncan's ordering again. I better not write him the same note. So I'd come up with a different note to write so you didn't think you know, that you were invisible. Or, you know, if a Siobhan had ordered, I'd make sure that there was a Fada in her name. You know, the little things, trying to humanize the online experience. And I think that really stood to us. And again, like Maeve, you know, we looked at what was important to customers. So efficiency, how could we be more efficient? So we looked at, you know, if a customer orders before 9:30 in the morning and they live in Dublin City, we'll get them the order on the same day. And we saw that kind of building and you see people panicking, you know, at 9:15, you know, all the orders start rolling in, they've got up and they realize that their press is empty and they need the coffee. So, you know, I think it's just realizing that there was opportunities there online that I'd wish we'd taken sooner. But at the same time, this year has been an incredible learning curve. For as painful as aspects of the business has been, you know, this is one of the successes that I would be very proud of.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sorry, Carol, just because there is room for us online. I was like you, I thought we can't go online, look at ASOS or look at iClothing or whatever, but there actually is room for us because we're really good at what we do, you know. So I'd order coffee from you.
I'm not sure if you sell men's clothes.
I was going to say, I'm not sure Carl's going to buy a dress from you, mate. Maybe for his wife. But
I do have a wife. No,
you can't. Just buy it anyway. It's fine.
Okay, guys, look, I'm really conscious of time. We've just slightly gone over the hour. So I know there's a few questions, but it looks like Gina had answered quite a few earlier on. So I'm not going to go back over the questions unless there's anything that anybody wants to ask, and maybe they'll just email into the info@retailexcellence.ie inbox, and we'll endeavour to answer them. But look, first off, Maeve, Carl, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of our panel, and all the very best for the future. Carl, I look forward to grabbing a coffee with you, socially distanced or otherwise, at some point in the not too distant. That would be great. And Maeve, as soon as I can get down to Cork, I'll certainly pop in, and you can say hello beautiful to me just because it makes it feel good for my ego. Gina, did you get most of your questions answered? Was there anything there that you wanted to highlight that has been raised that might be useful for others?
Yeah, sure. I think there was one good question. I think it was from Jackie, and it was in relation to the Shopify card scan element and functionality. And I suppose some of those features like card scan with Shopify is specific to the Shopify platform. So they're not contingent with, they're not transferable would be the point. So if I was to give any advice in terms of, you know, how you could maximize opportunity outside of the card scan piece, it would be around APMs. So additional payment methods like, you know, wallets are really, really popular at the moment, like Google Pay, Apple Pay, and so on. So I hope that helped.
Super. Thank you, Gina. And thank you to all of you at AIB Merchant Services. It's been great. Fergal, last words to you, if I may. After all the things you've perhaps been hearing from Maeve and Carl, does that register with you in terms of, I mean, certainly this whole convenience thing, shopping local, you know, what Maeve was doing there with her customers, you know, and appealing. I know you were talking there around how important it is to be convenient and how much, you know, online shopping benefits from that convenience piece earlier. But is there anything that registers with you from what you've heard?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I've largely been talking about, I suppose, how the larger chains perhaps, you know, and it might seem that that's the only way you can be convenient, but little changes that you can make in formats, in service, as Carl mentioned, you know, and you know, and several of the things that Maeve was doing. It's all about little things. It's all about making, you know, making the experience of the consumer that little bit quicker, that little bit easier to transact. And you know, it can either be done at one location or it can be done at 1,000 locations. But they all add up, and they all you know, they all help you to compete with the competition. Super.
Okay, guys, we'll leave it there. I'm just run slightly over time, but I thought the debate was great. And thank you so much to Maeve, to Carl, to Gina, and to Fergal. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you on another one of these. I'm sure we'll run this again, guys. It's been great fun. So thanks a million, and thanks to everybody that joined us today. And look forward to seeing you on future webinars over the next week or so. Thanks a million, guys. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.